Welcome. This is Holocaust, Genocide, and International Law at Gratz College. I am Professor Kristen Nelson. In this class, together we are going to survey the development of international human rights law through the legacy of the Holocaust to assess whether law can effectively be applied to prosecute the perpetrators of genocide and to prevent genocide in the future. As many of you are assuredly aware, the purpose of the 1948 United Nations Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide, it's a mouthful, so we'll just call it the Genocide Convention in this course, was to punish and prevent the recurrence of genocide after the Holocaust. Since the Genocide Convention's entry into force in 1951, genocide has continued to occur over and over again, and many perpetrators have gone unpunished. At the same time, an entire mechanism of international law has been developed to both prevent genocide and punish its perpetrators. For example, in 1998, the International Criminal Court in The Hague was established as a permanent court with authority to prosecute perpetrators of genocide and other atrocity crimes. But to date, no one has been tried for genocide at the ICC, and genocide has continued to occur. I look forward to having the opportunity to learn more about your interest as we work through this course together. By way of background, I am both a legal practitioner and researcher in the area of international human rights law and Holocaust restitution. I have spent a number of years working on atrocity and asset recovery cases in United States courts that are related to pursuing justice here in the US for Armenian genocide-era crimes and property theft. I was also a lead researcher on a 47-country Holocaust immovable property, or real property in non-legal parlance, study, which examined national property restitution schemes, both historic and ongoing, basically looking into how different countries, mostly within Europe, but sometimes also outside of Europe, work to return, and also sadly in some cases not return, real property like homes, businesses, farms, etc. after the Holocaust. All that is to say is that I hope my background and undoubtedly your varied and interesting backgrounds will make for lively and informative forum discussions during the course. Here is the breakdown of today's class. It is going to lay the foundation and provide background for the 7 weeks that follow. We'll go over the course introduction, we'll discuss sources of international law, and we'll finish with looking at the legal history of the Holocaust. Before we get into the brass tacks of how we will be attacking this course, I'd like to pose 3 questions to get us thinking. First question, when you hear or see the words Holocaust and law together, what comes to mind? Do you think of the International Military Tribunal at Nuremberg in the 1940s, as depicted in the photo on the left? Or maybe you think of Israel's trial of Adolf Eichmann in the 1960s, as shown on the right. In this course, I challenge you to think more broadly about law and its relationship to the Holocaust, and to perhaps see it as an event built on legal decisions and laws that first identified and defined a targeted group, the so-called Nuremberg laws being an example, laws that expropriated the property from people and forced their immigration, legal directives that sent people to concentration camps and ghettos, and finally, legal directives that covered extermination. In the aftermath of the war, instead of laws being used as weapons of persecution, as was the case under Nazi and Axis rule, law was used to punish and or search for justice at Nuremberg, depending on the state party you talk to. Law was used to void property theft measures, and law was used to access reparations. Second question. When you hear or see the words genocide and law together, what comes to mind? Do you think of Raphael Lemkin, the man who coined the term genocide and doggedly worked his entire life to first see that the international community passed the Genocide Convention, and then later that his adopted country, the United States, would actually ratify it? Do you think of the Genocide Convention itself with its particular and yet very abstract legal definition of what genocide is? Or maybe you associate genocide with the absence of law, because had there been a law, would there be genocide? In this course, I challenge you to again think more broadly, to see where the legal definition of genocide is found in an international convention, in the statutes of international tribunals, in national law, in declarations, to see who can be found guilty of the crime of genocide, to see how difficult it actually is to be found guilty of genocide. The crime requires specific intent, or dolus specialis, and to see how the legal definition of genocide is different from other related atrocity crimes, such as crimes against humanity or ethnic cleansing. Final question. When you hear or see the words international and law together, what comes to mind? Maybe you think of the International Court of Justice, the so-called World Court in The Hague, a photo of which is on the left of the screen. Who appears before the ICJ? States. Maybe you think of the United Nations Criminal Tribunal for the former Yugoslavia, where Ratko Mladic was found guilty of a multitude of offenses by a trial chamber in late 2017, including on charges of genocide in connection with his actions during the Balkan conflicts in the early 1990s. At the ICTY, unlike the ICJ, it's not the state on trial, it's individuals. Maybe when you think of international law, you just think of the UN. Well, it is all those things and really so much more. So I challenge you one more time to think more broadly about international law during this course and its particular relationship to genocide. And think of questions such as the interference in the affairs of another country. When are other countries allowed to or required to intervene, especially when charges of genocide have been levied, as is the case currently in Myanmar? What about non-state entities like ISIS? Are they subject to international law if by definition international law governs relations between states? Can a non-state entity be guilty of genocide? And also, when are states responsible in international law and when are individuals responsible? These are just a few questions we have to go over. We have a lot to cover in this course. So, the logistics of taking Holocaust, genocide, and international law at Gratz College. This is a PhD level class and expectations are high that you keep up with weekly readings and lectures and assignments. A new and distinct topic is covered each week, and so there is little time to catch up if you fall behind. It's important that if, after reading the assigned materials and watching the weekly lecture, you feel you are not understanding the week's topic, to please contact me and set up an office hours appointment. Each week's topic builds on the knowledge of the previous week. Class breakdown. This course is divided into roughly 3 sections. The first is the legal history of the Holocaust and genocide, covered in classes 1 and 2. Next, we'll move on to the legal reckoning with the crimes of the Holocaust in classes 3 to 5, which are divided into international, domestic, and civil processes. And we'll conclude with Holocaust as a catalyst for modern criminal justice in classes 6 to 8, where we will look at modern international criminal law, crimes related to genocide, prevention, and redress. Method of examination. There are 4 types of graded activities for this course. The first is forum participation. Each week, I will post 3 different questions relating to the week's course topic in their own threads in the forum in Moodle. You will have to respond and contribute to 2 of the 3 weekly questions. The second graded activity is host for a week on the course blog. So for weeks 3 through 7 of this course, 2 students each week will be hosts for a week on the course blog. And I encourage you to sign up on Moodle this week for your hosting slot, only 2 students per week. A host is required to prepare a 750-word blog post on a topic of your choosing that is related to the week's lecture. The topic can be current or historic. And it must be different from the one you will be using for your midterm presentation and final paper. The third graded activity is the midterm final paper preview webinar presentation in PowerPoint. At the end of the course, you will be submitting a final paper via Moodle on a topic of your choosing that reveals and analyzes important legal aspects of international human rights law or domestic law as they relate to the Holocaust and/or genocide. But at the midway point of the course during week 4, you are going to submit a 5 to 10 slide PowerPoint via Moodle and participate in a scheduled webinar to make an oral presentation about your final paper topic using the 5 to 10 slide PowerPoint. You'll sign up via Moodle for one of 2 scheduled webinars, and I urge you to think of the PowerPoint and webinar as an outline for the paper and an opportunity to receive feedback from both myself and possibly other students about your paper topic and sources and other information that may help you complete your final assignment. The final assignment is the 4th graded activity, the final paper. It's based on the topic selected and presented during the midterm final paper preview presentation and must be timely submitted via Moodle. A comprehensive breakdown of the requirements for the graded activities in this course is included in your syllabus, and I encourage you to read it carefully. Finally, I encourage you to remain informed on developments in international law and genocide. For the first half of the course, we're going to be sort of backward looking, taking a deep dive into the history of genocide and how the legal treatment of the crime of genocide was in many ways a product of the Holocaust. But in the second half of the course, we're going to build on that foundation and look carefully at modern international criminal justice, labeling modern atrocity crimes, prevention, redress, things of that nature. Unfortunately, there is a lot going on in the world relating to all of these topics right now. And keeping updated on international events will be helpful for forum responses, blog posts, and final papers.